Baruch atah Asherah Anat Melecha Ha'olam Asher Kedeshani Mitzvotav Tzivani V'hitatif Tzitzit. Grime, it's 7 a.m. Where? In California? I think it's 7:30 or 7:40. I usually wake up at dawn, but I've been in a pattern of waking up around dawn and then going back to bed until around 8 a.m. And then it takes me, in this case, 2.5 hours to move from, hey, I'm awake, to, oh, I've shaved and put my makeup on and am ready to communicate with all of you lovely humans. It's quite a morning ritual. Sometimes I wonder, oh, you could save so much time if you didn't have to be prepared to talk to people first thing in the morning, because it's not really first thing in the morning. It takes me 2 hours to get ready. But I do. I take the 2 hours, I get ready, because I love you all. And I want to hang out with you, because I really care about you and how you're doing. You're in LA. But the skies aren't that grimy in LA, are they? I think they're usually pretty clear. Anyway, let's begin, shall we? Um, 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 Yes, let's start the ritual 40 roll. What's the weather like in California? It's autumn here. It's getting cold. I've closed my windows. Can no longer walk around with minimal clothing outside and feel comfortable. I miss it already. Thank you, Freedom. I'm glad you like the films I make. Make them for you. So, today, like all the other days, we are going to spend a little bit of time together reminding ourselves of where we came from, right? So we're going to read some old stories, say some old prayers, and take a little bit of time, not too much time, thinking about what they mean. Spoiler alert, they don't mean much of anything, right? Or they mean whatever you want them to mean. Meaning is contingent, interpretation is relative, and we'll just be together, experience these old texts, and be connected. So we'll start with the Shema. This is a 2,500-year-old prayer from the book of Deuteronomy. The first word means listen. It goes like this. Shema Yisrael Asher Eloheinu Yahweh Echad. Vahafta et Anat Elohecha ובכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך וחיו הדברים האלה אשר נוחים מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ולכתך בדרך ובשכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאוד על ידיך וחיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. What does it mean? Shema Yisrael, Yahweh Eloheinu, Yahweh Echad. Listen, Israel. Yahweh Eloheinu. Yahweh and Eloheinu, these two God names, they are one. All the various diversity that you might see in the world that causes you to feel all sorts of diverse, conflicted feelings, actually, all the things derive from one thing, right? The universe came from a single point 13.7 billion years ago. And you shall love Yahweh Eloheinu with all your heart and all your might and all your soul. And these words that I'm repeating to you today, teach them to your children and recite them when you wake up in the morning and when you go to bed at night. And inscribe them on your doorposts and on your gates. And much else besides. I'm condensing a little bit. You've been waiting for me. I've been waiting for you, Batya. Shabbat Shalom. I'm glad you're here. Good morning, Crypto Gamer. How are you? Something's in my eye. Okay. Good Shabbos. V'chaya, ki v'chayu Elohecha el ha'aretz asher nisba levatecha le'avram yitzchak u'Yaakov letet lach avrim gedolot v'tovot asher lo vanita uvatim meleim kol tuva asher lo mileta uverot hatzuvim asher lo asatva ke'arim v'zitim asher lo natata ve'alachta v'shavata hishamer lecha pen tishchach et yoreh asher tishacha mi'eretz mitzrayim mibet avadim. When Yahweh Eloheinu brings you into the land that he swore to your fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to assign to you, great and flourishing cities that you did not build, houses full of all good things that you did not fill, hewn cisterns that you did not hew, vineyards and olive groves that you did not plant, and you eat your fill. Take heed that you do not forget Yahweh, who freed you from the land of Egypt, the house of bondage. Thank you, Stephanie. I appreciate your commentary in the chat. It sets the tone very well. What language am I speaking? Would anyone like to tell Freedom is my love what language I'm speaking? Can anyone guess? Right, like I repeat those words because they remind me that my life here is politically contingent. And I do think that much of our religious history is tied up in political contingencies, whether we like it or not. Much of our concept of divinity is tied up in political contingencies. Our concept of God is tied up in political contingencies, and I don't like it, right? I wish I could give you a concept of God that was independent of the state, independent of politics, independent of power, structuring the memes that other people share with other people, that ancient people shared with ancient people. But that's not the case, right? Human power has strongly structured the way that humans have understood the divine. For better and for worse. So I say those words to remind myself that there is no concept of God that I could study that hasn't been shaped by 10,000 years of human warfare. So it goes. Yes, it's Hebrew. Thank you, Batya. So today, we're going to continue reading from Atrahasis. And finally, I've been reading from this story, Atrahasis, for 3 weeks now. Thank you, Crypto Gamer. I appreciate that. What does it mean to be cool? You said that you're cool and that I'm cool. I try to be warm most of the time. I don't like being cool. In any case. We finally, after 2 weeks, encountered Atrahasis, the protagonist of this story. And the way it happened was that there was a civil war between the two clades of gods, between the Igigi and the Anunnaki. And the Igigi stopped working, and they said, this oppression is too much. We're done digging the banks of the rivers. And the Anunnaki said, okay, fine, we'll make some humans. And they made some humans to dig the banks of the rivers. But then the humans started rebelling too. Fancy that, right? Turns out that no one likes being oppressed. Whether you call them gods or man, they don't like toiling. And so they started making all this ruckus. And so there was a god of disease. What was their name? Namtara, right? Namtara sent a shivering disease among the people. And Enki then went to Atrahasis and said, here's what you do to combat the shivering disease. Stop worshipping the other gods. Just worship Nantara. And Nantara will let the shivering disease go. Make it go away, right? Similar to, there's this story in the book of Numbers, I believe. Maybe you're familiar with it, some of you, where the people are complaining to Yahweh, why did you set us in this desert, right? It's a story that's documented in this little infographic here. Boop, right? Yeah, this one. So the people complain to Yahweh, why did you send us into this desert? We're hungry. You got goats, Dr. Punk. I made a promise to you and I kept it. Anyone who wants to post goats in the chat, you can subscribe and then you get goat privileges. It's very nice. Anyway, there's this story in the book of Numbers where the people are complaining and then Yahweh sends serpents into the camp. And serpents are terrible and they're killing people. And Moses prays to Yahweh and Moses says, what do I do? There's all these serpents in the camp. And Yahweh says, here's what you do. You take a serpent, cast it in bronze, put it on a pole. And then when people look at it, they shall live, right? It's just the same basic idea. Like when there's a God that's afflicting you, and so what you need to do in response to that affliction is pay attention to it, right? Focus on it, worship it, pray to it. And then the affliction, you'll be able to move past it, right? So I don't know what the moral of that is. Maybe there's nothing. I think it's very interesting that, like, in the book of Numbers, Yahweh commands idol worship, worship of serpents, nonetheless, right? We have some Asherah creeping in there, despite the rigid monotheism that the book claims to profess. What is going on here? I have digressed, Naylor, but we're reading from a story called Atrahasis, which is a very old story. From Mesopotamia, and where we left off, right, there was this interesting mythological structure where a god afflicts the people, and then in order to become unafflicted, they have to pay attention to the god. And I don't know what the moral of that is. I drew this parallel to the Book of Numbers so that you might have some connection to your own tradition. Not that many of you are super familiar with the Book of Numbers, probably not, but doesn't matter. Anyway, I think serpent worship is cool. So we have this setup, this character setup, where Atrahasis is now the hero, right? He figured out how to save the people from the shivering sickness, and Enki is the confidant, right? Enki is one of the high gods, but he's working at cross purposes. He's not allowing the high gods to get away with their punishment of humanity, their arbitrary punishment. Instead, he confers with Atrahasis and tells Atrahasis how to get around it. And so that's what we're going to see here in this next part of the story. Instead of the shivering disease, it's going to be a great flood. Right? You're probably familiar with that from the book of Genesis. So we're going to learn about the great flood and how Enki allows Atrahasis to move around it. Any Abrahamic religion. Yes, indeed. Christoph, you get it. I'm glad. That is precisely the response that I want. It's really nice to feel understood. Thank you so much, Christoph. Not only any Abrahamic religion, right? Like, these Mesopotamian stories, they went east as well, right? And they influenced Zoroastrianism, they influenced the religions of Iran, and then therefore made their way into India, right? Like, I'm quite positive that you could find flood myths and serpent worships in the Vedic religions. But yes, we're going to stick to Abrahamic most of all, because that's typically what I study. Yeah, you got me. All right, so we're going to start Tablet 2. The story of Atrahasis, and it goes like this. 600 years, not even 600 years, went by. The inhabited lands sprawled, and the people grew plentiful, and the inhabited lands raised a howl like a bellowing bull. This is not good. The gods don't like it when things get too loud. But the god was annoyed by all the noise they made. Elil had to put up with all of their loud clamor and chatter. Eliel raised his voice to be heard, speaking to the high gods. The noise which is made by man has become too great. All of this clamor and clatter has kept me from my sleep. Now let us make it so the humans will be denied their food, so that growth will not be great enough to cure their hunger. Let it be so that in the heavens Adad will withhold his rains, and beneath no subterranean water will gush from the springs. This is not a flood. I promised you a flood. This is not a flood. This is a drought. Cause the winds to be unleashed and rage, denuding the soil. Let there be clouds aloft in the sky, which brings no rain, so the farmer's fields will yield hardly any crop to speak of. There's an interesting thing, the connection between droughts and flood, right? Like, in North America, where I assume most of you are, almost the entire continent has been in drought all summer, right? I was just reading an article saying the first hurricane of the year is going to hit the East Coast in September, right? And this is the first time in like 50 years that there's been no hurricanes in August, right? Because we've been so dry. But instead, all of the water is landing on the other side of the world, right? There have been the worst droughts ever in Pakistan, right? Like 50 million people have been displaced. So we have droughts and we have flood, and they come together at the same time. Anyway. So the farmer's fields will yield hardly any crops to speak of. Let Nisaba hold back the nourishing flow from her breasts. Right? Waters from the world are equated with waters from human orifices, godly human orifices, right? Let Nisaba hold back the nourishing flow from her breasts. There are no blessings which are bestowed onto them, so that their lives will be wretched and filled with misery. Quite a curse for being too loud and too plentiful. Good morning, Winter Bambi. I'm happy to see you too. The gods sent messengers to Adad to withhold his rain, to Nisaba to withhold the nourishing flow of her breasts, and the winds were unleashed and raged, denuding the soil. There were clouds aloft in the sky, but they brought no rain. So the farmers' fields yielded hardly any crops to speak of. There were no blessings which were bestowed onto them, so that their lives became wretched and filled with misery. And I think we'll leave it at that. Just a little bit for today. Next, we're going to have Atrahasis speaking to Enki. How are we going to deal with this? How are we going to get around this? Right? And the story will continue on and on and on. Right? So what did we read today? That humanity got too loud, and so rather than sending a shivering sickness, the gods said, no more rain. No more rain for you. And tomorrow, when we read more tomorrow, we'll learn how Atrahasis gets out of it. How will our hero escape the punishments of the gods? We'll find out. We will find out. Good morning, Knox. How are you doing today? So, next we have Arati. And the word Arati means flame in Sanskrit. Here's our little flame. I'm doing pretty good, Knox. Running a little bit later this morning than I would like to be, and wish it were an hour earlier. But you know, sometimes you sleep as much as you sleep, and that's just the way that it is. What are my weekend plans? I'm working on my thesis, Bambi. That's not only my weekend plans, it's like my life plans for the next 9 months. No vacations, no partying, no mind-altering drugs, just thesis. Thank you, Dr. Punk. Dr. Punk knows that it's fire time. Yeah, I have to write a thesis on the efficacy of online video for educating people. What do I specialize in? Mycology, sometimes that's usually what I say. But the thesis I'm writing is about pedagogy, right? Like, how do you most effectively teach students things? And right, like, I'm a content creator, so I made a lot of videos during my 9 years. Oh my god, 9 years in graduate school. Now I have to write about it. So I'm reading a bunch of, like, really boring papers about people who, like, showed students videos and then tested them to see if they learned anything. And that's what I did, an experiment like that. I made some videos and I showed them to students to test them, see if they learned anything. Turned out they didn't. It's very disappointing. I have to write about, like, quantification and why testing is dumb, and talk about ungrading and this and that and the other thing. Yeah, so I'm going to be writing for all of the rest of the day. I have a meeting with my advisor in the middle of the week, and I have some bureaucratic emails to write. So I had one advisor who told me I should drop out because he didn't think my work was high enough quality. It's stressful. I wish I was not in grad school. I wish I could just make TikTok content all day long with all of you. Because you all are so much more emotionally fulfilling than anyone I work with in graduate school. So that's what I will be doing for the next while. It's also why I'm not posting content, right? You notice that I was posting like basically every other day throughout the months of July and August, and then I just stopped. It's because I have to work on this thesis, and I'm not pleased. But long-term plans. I want some letters in front of my name for some reason that I've forgotten. Just totally forgotten. It's mostly a sunk cost at this point. Sunk cost fallacy. Can't give up now. You've put in 8 years of your life. What's one more? I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, when my thesis gets published, I'll share it with you. I miss the dumpster videos too. I will be making some dumpster videos in October. I've got a very special event planned, so there will be more dumpster videos, but for now, it's thesis work. Anyhow, Arati. Arati means flame or light in Sanskrit, right? So Jaya means praise, or just Jai, right? Jaya, Arati. What do I believe in? I believe in you, Christoph. I believe that we are here together, right? And that meaning is made through repetition and through shared reality with other humans looking for similar kinds of meaning, right? We're social creatures. We can't know anything without one another. So I believe in being together. Mr. Jacob Toe, you're so fucking weird. You're so weird. But I like that you're here. Thank you, Crypto Gamer, for the wishing bottle. I have some wishes. Yeah. End of September. Ooh. Alright, so let's say Arati. The word Arati means flame in Sanskrit. Jaya Arati Vina Vinayaka Vina Vinayaka Shri Ganesha Jaya Arati Subramanya Subramanya Kartikeya Jaya Arati Venugopala Venugopala Venuola Papa Vidura Navanita Chora Jaya Arati Venkanta Ramana Venkanta Ramana Sankata Harana Sita Rama Radhe Shama Jaya Arati Gauri Manohara Bhavani Sankara Samba Sadashiva Uma Maheshwara Jaya Arati Raja Rajeshwari Tripura Sundari Mahalakshmi Mahasaraswati Mahakali Mahashakti Jaya Arati Anjaneya Hanumanta Jaya Arati Dattatreya Trimutriya Vatara Jaya Arati Adityaya Bhaskaraya Jaya Arati Sanistaraya Bhaskaraya Jaya Arati Sankarachaya Advaita Gurave Jaya Arati Sadgurunata Shivananda Jaya Arati Vishnu Devananda Jaya Arati Agastya Munaye Shriyama Priyaye Jaya Arati Ayappa Samine Dharma Shastave Jaya Arati Jesus Gurave Moses Gurave Buddha Gurave Jaya Arati Muhammad Gurave Guru Nanak Gurave Samastya Gurubho Namaha Jaya Arati Venugopala. Technicolor Smooth, you are both correct and incorrect. Of course I'm doing this for Internet Cloud. But I wouldn't say just, right? Because I know how these numbers work. I pay attention to them quite obsessively, too obsessively, right? Because I do want that internet clout. But if I wanted my live streams to have more viewers, I wouldn't be saying these particular words over and over and over again. Notice how there's only 14 people here. I used to do lives where there were thousands of people. Right, so if I were simply following the numbers, simply chasing internet clout purely, I wouldn't be saying these prayers every morning. Not many people like them. But the people who are here do like them, and I like them, and I find it rather cathartic to say them every morning. It connects me to something deeper than my own individual selfhood, right? It connects me to a lineage, a series of lineages, right? This tree of life back here reminds me of the context that my life is lived within. And that's why I say these words over and over and over again. So it's not just for internet clout, although I do want your internet clout. If you'd like, you can subscribe to my channel, support me, to help me say these words every day. I do need help, right? Like, my time, unfortunately, is not free, because I live in a world that charges me for my time. And that is what it is. I do them for religion and for education, right? Like, I absolutely intend to educate when I do these. I try to educate myself, right? That's why I'm reading these old stories. I want to read them, right? I want to know what's in them. And I also do it for a certain kind of emotional release, right? Because I care about feeling connected to these old traditions. Happy Saturday, Kate. Thank you, Kate. I appreciate that. I do try to be deliberate with my color palettes every morning. It's been an interesting challenge. Like, I've started doing eyeliner, like 3 months ago? And I wake up and first I'm like, I'm just going to put on this, and then I match my eyes to whatever outfit I'm wearing, and it's a nice exercise. I get to be playful. I get to get away with, like, more ridiculous makeup on TikTok than I would if I was, like, going to university every day. I'd have to stick with, like, earth tones. But because I'm performing for you, I get to be more colorful, and that's nice. I need to find God. I do, Uncle Roy. I wish I could find them. They're everywhere, and that makes them very difficult to see. Makes you feel connected to ancient Egypt and the gospel. Good. That's the goal. That is the goal. Yes, here we are, trying to find God, proving to be a very difficult thing to find. It's, you know, like the fish swimming in water. What's that story, right? Fish doesn't know that it's swimming in water because it's surrounding it all the time. Like, we are literally immersed and surrounded and made up of the substance of God. And to make that claim is basically meaningless. You're just saying everything is everything. Like, okay, duh, everything's everything. What else would everything be? Nothing? Well, everything is also nothing, yes, because God is paradox as well as everything else. The word God is loaded, right? Like, I say it every day. And I say various names of God every day, and it's just, it's a very difficult concept. It's a concept that is too big to really be talked about from any given frame, and that's largely the problem. But the word God as an English word, like G-O-D, right, usually comes with implications that I don't care for. No, I don't believe in any higher power. What do you mean a higher power? Some agency that is, like, transhuman? That can control my life, like the state, right? That's the state. An agency made up of more than the capacity of a single human being that structures who I am and the kinds of actions I can take, right? Like, God and the state have been equated for as long as we've had conceptions of God, right? So it doesn't have to be supernatural, right? Like, I'm controlled by multinational conglomerates and corporations and political entities who don't have my well-being at heart. I'm controlled by them. But no, in terms of supernaturalism, I don't think there's anything outside of what everything is, right? If everything is everything and God is everything, then there can't be anything that is outside of everything. That wouldn't make any sense. I don't think that there are things outside of the laws of physics or, you know, however you choose to define them. What the universe is what the universe is. We don't need anything extra icing layered on top all that is in order to feel like there's meaning in it. No, everything can just be. Just be everything. Right? Everything and nothing are intertwined. Anyway, I'm in the middle of a prayer. I got sidetracked by some interesting questions. And you believe the elements are God. Yeah, right? The word God, you can literally, you can take the word God and then you can point at literally anything. Like that. That's what God means, right? Elements meaning like the constituent matter that makes up the world, right? The liquids and the solids and the gases and the plasmas. Explain the prayer. All right, let's do that instead. Nicholas just wants foreign language. That's good. You're supposed to go on a date. Good luck. I'll contradict myself. Any tips? Don't worry about it too much. Don't treat it like a date. Just be like, I'm hanging out with this person, and maybe I think their body is really cool. Maybe I want to touch it. All right, I'll touch it. Like, don't take it too seriously. I don't know. I can't give dating advice. Like, I live on a commune with like partnerships that just are wholly unlike what most people experience. I've been on a handful of dates. I've not liked them usually. I take people dumpster diving on dates very often. Like my wife, the first thing that we did when we hung out was dumpster. Although I don't think either of us thought we were on a date. Like we lived together for a year and a half before we thought about each other that way. Like I'm not very good at courtship. It just kind of happens. Yeah, don't take yourself too seriously. Just appreciate what your body can do. That's what I would say, Kate. Who am I praying to? I'm praying to you, Uncle Roy. Like, quite literally. I'm praying to you. I'm praying to everyone in this room. That's what we're doing. We're praying to one another, right? Like grammar, like, it makes much more sense that we pray to each other, pray to the people that are around us when we pray publicly, than that we're praying to some abstract concept that's very difficult to define. Like, that concept can't receive my prayers, right? It's a concept. It's a social construct. I'm praying to you. Very literally. Okay. Natatra suyobati natandrakaratam nema vidyobati kotoyamagni twameva bantamanamanti sarvantasya basya samidam bivanti om gange kayamane kaiva govari saraswati narmade siddhikaveri hiya namastitam namo namaha. Neither the sun shines there, nor moon, nor stars, no lightning. So from where does the light come? When that shines, everything shines after that. From this light, all else is lit. Yes, I believe that God is within me and without me, right? God refuses definition or confinement, right? They're everywhere and nowhere all at once. They can't be spoken of, because to speak of them is to limit their parameters, right? And they are the infinite and nothingness in one. Yes, Batya, it's Saturday, so I will sing I Don't Want to Pray. Tvameva mata chapita tvameva bandusha saka tvameva vidya dravinam tvameva sarvam mama deva Kaina vacha manasandriyarva buddhyatmanava prakrite sabhavad karomyadyad mangalam parasmahe narayana iti sarmarpayami sarvadharmam pravichaya mamikam sarvanam ruja aham sva sarvapapayo mokshayami masucha. Whatever actions I perform with my body, speech, mind, senses, my nature, my intellect, or my emotions, all these I dedicate to you. See, we're praying to one another. It's nice. I think it's a worthwhile practice. And I hope you do too. I don't want to pray to my maker, no, I just want to be feeling free. Not just who I am, but the pink in golden land and that wide, wild sky over me. Help me to the sun, hey, I'm looking everywhere. See, I'm looking to become not the prayer, but the prayer. And I don't want to pray, no. I don't want to pray, no. I don't want to pray. We don't want to pray. And it's not much good to talk, better to walk it. Ooh, not much good to take, better to give. We are done, forgiven, and forgotten of our sins, and I promise you, my friends, all that dies will live again, so pardon, God and Mom. What I'm saying isn't fair, see, I'm looking to become not the prayer, but the prayer, and I don't want to pray, no. I don't want to pray, no, no, no. I don't want to pray, we don't want to pray. Pray, Allah, Allah made love, and Yahweh, Yahweh made hate. Asher, Asher, made good, and Anat, Anat made bad. Eloheinu made love, and Yahweh, Yahweh made hate. Allah, God made, God made, God made. But I don't want to pray to my Maker. I just want to be what I see. Not like in a book, or the leaves of trees that shook, from a word that means only not a thing. Hashem. Pardon, God and Mom, what I'm saying isn't fair. See, I'm looking to become not the prayer, but the prayer, and I don't want to pray, no. I don't want to pray, no, no, no. I don't want to pray, we don't want to pray. Pray. Allah, Allah made love, and Yahweh, Yahweh made hate. Asher, Asher made good, and Anat, Anat made bad. Eloheinu made love, and Yahweh, Yahweh made hate. Allah, God made, God made, God made me. But of course God didn't make any of those things, right? Because God is just a word that means not a thing. And things make things. Not things make not things. I speak in riddles, I'm sorry. Ouroboros, goat Ouroboros, yes? I'm glad you like the emojis. I'm glad you're making use of them. I appreciate them, Dr. Punk. Surrendering into the oneness requires all elements of ego to dissolve, including interesting quirks. Yes, so Starlight, wow. I wonder about theologies that require surrendering and letting go of a sense of self. Like, I find them compelling, right? Like, the narratives around them are, they're legitimate, right? they're wide and they're deep and they're ancient. But I have my doubts, right? Like, basically, I'm not quite willing to give up my sense of self. To surrender to oneness. Not just yet. I like being a differentiated being. I have committed my individuated self to playing the TikTok status game, and there's a deep contradiction to like trying to be a public figure on the internet and surrendering to the oneness of the all. And I like my interesting quirks. So I don't think you're wrong, right? Like I think those are good goals to aspire to. But I have difficulty with them. That's all I'll say on that. I'm glad you enjoyed that, Nicholas. What is my job? This is my job. I earn about 50 cents a day streaming live on the internet, thanks to Dr. Punk. No, I'm a PhD student at a university. I study mycology and pedagogy and these sort of things. What if your quirks are uninteresting? I mean, then you can, if you don't like them, you can get rid of them. Right? They're not necessary. I am not excited for autumn, Nancy. Autumn makes me sad. Right? Like, I'm not depressed today. I'm actually in quite a good mood today. I don't know why, but generally speaking, I get very sad in the fall. It just gets cold, and I feel constrained, right? Like, physically, like, I can't leave this room because I get cold outside of the room. So no, I can't say I'm excited for autumn. But I'm excited for next year, right? I live in the future. I'm a very future-oriented person, so I've got 9 months of work to do, and then my life will be very different. Yes, there's a deep contradiction to modern life and oneness. You feel it too, right? And we have to embrace the contradiction, and live inside the contradiction, and recognize that it is contradictory, and yet it is real. We are all part of God, regardless of who you are. Do. The leaves are pretty. Yes, I do think that when the leaves change, it's very beautiful. But you run hot, you live for fall and winter. Hoodie weather. And you live in a fairly cold place, don't you? You get a lot of snow where you live. So. Our morning ritual is almost concluded. Here we are. Final prayer together will be called Kaddish. So the word Kaddish means prayer in Hebrew. It has deep roots, right? This is the goddess Kadesh. I like showing you her because she's so sexy. Utah has the most pretty mountains. Yeah, it does. So, we're going to say a prayer of mourning, a prayer of grieving, so that we can let go of that which we do not need. Let go of the people in our lives who are no longer with us. Let go of the idiosyncratic character traits that are holding us back from experiencing oneness with all. Don't actually believe that. I don't know what I believe. People ask me what I believe. Almost every stream, I'm like, I don't know. I believe in saying words with other people. It makes me feel good. It makes me feel connected. And like, my life has meaning. So we say these words together. For the last 2,500 years, my ancestors have been saying words like these in response to death and grief. And they sound a little bit like this. Yid Kadal, Vid Kadash, Shema Rabba. Biama Divrachyote, Viamlich Malchete, Bechayachon, Vyomechon, Vchayede Kolbe Israel, Bagala, Visman Kari, Vimru. Amen. Yehi Shemei Rabba Mevarach Li'alam Omei Omaya Yitbarach Vishtabach Vitbar Vitrmam Vitnaseh Vitadar Vitale Vitalal Shemei Dekudisha Berechu Leila Min Kol Birchata Bashirata Tush Birchata V'nechemata Jemiran Bialma Vimru. Amen. Yehi Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya V'chayim Aleinu V'yochol Yisrael Vimru. Amen. Ose Shalom B'mirmav Huya Ase Shalom Aleinu V'yochol Yisrael Vimru. Amen. Oh, say shalom b'mamav, hu say shalom aleinu, v'alechol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. Thank you so much for joining me today. I will see you here sometime very soon to say these words once again. If you like what we're doing here, I would ask that you consider supporting this stream in any number of ways. There's a link in the bio to my Patreon. There's a link somewhere around here to subscribe on TikTok itself. You can send tips. You can do lots of things to help materially support this work that we're doing together. And I always appreciate it. Thank you for the finger heart. There you go. Thank you. Excellent example. Thank you for modeling the behavior. So I have some quinoa in my rice cooker, and I'm going to go get it. And we can hang out for another 10-15 minutes or so and have breakfast and talk a little bit more casually. And I'd love to hear what you're up to today. So I'll be back in under a minute with a bowl of grain to eat. Okay, see you soon. Good morning, friends. Batya, what are you up to today? You made it. Good morning, Paris. Yeah, you made it to the eating portion of the live stream, which is often the most popular, because I can speak more candidly. Although, gosh, it's strange. Like, what a reality. We live in 2022, and entertainment consists of watching other people eat. Thank you, Autumn. I appreciate that. I've been practicing my eye makeup quite a bit these last few months. You're getting new tires today. That's important. If your tires are bald, you can't brake. Then you can crash. It's no good. I have a housemate who crashed my car. Totaled the car. It's not good at all. Quinoa. Yes, I'm eating quinoa this morning. I usually eat boiled grains in the morning because it's simple. It's easy on my system. I can cook it in this room. Sometimes my kitchen is too crowded to support my breakfast time. You're caring for a 94-year-old lady. I hope I'm delightful when I'm 94. Yeah. New tires. Yeah, so we got new tires on my car, and then like 2 months later, a month or two later, the car was totaled. It's really shitty. Having a car is just expensive. Just is expensive. Transportation is expensive. Sucks. My commune, so there's 8 of us, and we spend something like $15,000 a year on transportation. Right? We have a fleet of 5 cars. One of them is always broken. We're always in the process of replacing another one. $15,000 a year to keep us all moving. It's our largest single budget area. It's dreadful. So it goes. Shabbat shalom. But at least in Florida, you don't have to deal with salty roads. We have to replace the brakes on our cars just about every 6 months because they get salted out and corroded. Brakes and calipers every 6 months on every single vehicle. Eating quinoa. Working from home has saved you a lot. I'm sure it has. Yeah, I work from home mostly. I just got this new job at the university, and when they gave it to me, I was very clear with them. Like, I am coming in as little as possible. Once a month, maybe. So far, it's working out. You have snowbirds who can't drive. More accidents. I wonder if there's any data on that. Right, like, in places like, I don't know, North Carolina, where they get snow, but like once a year, are there more accidents related to those snowstorms than in, like, Newfoundland, when they get snow all the time? More accidents per storm or something? Yes, I am eating quinoa. Dr. Punk, how long have you been working from home? Is it a pandemic thing, or were you working from home for years? Kevin, it is not the correct term, although I appreciate that you put that in the question. That indicates to me that you understand me better than most of the people who come in here and ask similar questions. I'm Jewish. I grew up Jewish. My grandparents are Holocaust survivors. My mother was a refugee. Right, so I have a historical imprint of Judaism upon me, regardless of what my theological understandings of the tradition might be. But very few people would label what I do here Judaism. Depends. The accidents are worse in North Carolina than in New York, according to Ash. I'm glad we have that anecdotal evidence. The sun is worth $100 a month. Probably. Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate that. Definitely not Jewish. Very inclusive. I mean, it's funny, right? Like, Batya, you say this is not Jewish, and, like, I agree with you. Particularly given your background, like, This is very different than your Jewish background, and yet you have a Jewish background and you're here, and I have a Jewish background and I'm here, right? So there's something Jewish about it, even if it's not Jewish. What am I? I am a human. I'm a product of 3.8 billion years of cellular evolution and genetic change, resulting in strange creatures that look at the world and ponder it and feel existential anxiety. Okay. Well, my quinoa is all gone, so I think it is time for me to be gone as well. But I will see you very soon, and I just love spending these mornings with you. It means so much to me that that I get to be in this kind of communication with all of you, really amazing people. So if you would like to support me in continuing to do this work, I would encourage you to do that. You can subscribe on TikTok. It's a new feature that they've implemented, or there's a link in my bio to my Patreon. You can also send a one-time tip or like a little reward in this live stream, if you care to do that instead, right? Like, even the small amounts count, right? Because they give me a sense of purpose, and it's just a little token. Oh yes, the work that we're doing here is valuable. So I'm starting to repeat this little money ask at the end of every show and in the middle of every show, because I feel like I have to. I wish I didn't feel like I have to, right? I don't necessarily like asking for support like this, because it also makes me feel vulnerable and like a freeloader and blah 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 blah. But in any case, I won't dwell on it. I will see you all tomorrow, and I appreciate all of your support and presence in all of the different forms and flavors that it comes in. Yeah, so I will see you all on Monday. I hope you have a really lovely weekend. And I can't wait to see you again. Okay, farewell.